The old upright piano sat in the corner of the bedroom, its dark wood gleaming under the afternoon light. Mia had played this instrument since she was 5 years old, and it had always felt like a friend. But today, as she sat on the worn bench staring at the sheet music in front of her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She pressed middle C. The sound echoed through the quiet room, but instead of comfort, she felt her chest tighten. 3 months! That's all the time she had left before the regional youth piano competition, and suddenly it felt like 3 days. Mia flexed her fingers and tried again. This time she managed 4 measures before her mind went blank. She knew this piece. She'd been working on it for weeks, but her brain seemed to skip like a scratched CD, jumping over the notes she needed most. "You're overthinking it," she whispered to herself, repeating what Mrs. Chen, her piano teacher, always said. But knowing that didn't make her fingers cooperate. The competition hadn't seemed like a big deal when Mrs. Chen first suggested it back in September. Actually, it had felt exciting. Mia was 16 now, and her teacher thought she was ready for the advanced category. Not the intermediate level where most students her age competed, but advanced. With the older kids, the really good ones, "You have something special," Mrs. Chen had told her, eyes bright with excitement. "Your interpretation has maturity beyond your years. I think you're ready for this challenge." Mia had felt proud that day. She'd gone home and told her parents over dinner, and they'd been thrilled. Her mom immediately called Aunt Linda. Then her dad mentioned it to his colleagues at work. Her older brother posted something on social media about his concert pianist sister. Before she knew it, the whole thing had snowballed into this massive event that everyone seemed to care about. Now her calendar mocked her from the wall. December 15th was circled in red marker. Competition day. Each time she looked at it, that circle seemed to pulse like a warning light. Mia tried the piece again from the beginning. Her teacher had helped her choose it. A classical composition that was technically challenging but beautiful, the kind of piece that made judges sit up and pay attention, the kind that could also fall apart spectacularly if you made mistakes. Her fingers moved across the keys, but they felt stiff and unnatural. This wasn't how music was supposed to feel. When she was younger, playing piano was like breathing. She'd lost herself in it for hours. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She'd play Disney songs, pop music, whatever made her happy. Now every practice session felt like work. Heavy, exhausting work. The worst part was the physical stuff that had started happening. 2 weeks ago, right in the middle of practicing, her heart had started racing for no reason. She'd felt dizzy and had to stop. It passed after a few minutes, but it scared her. Then it happened again. And again, she hadn't told anyone. What would she say? That sitting at a piano, something she'd done thousands of times, suddenly made her feel like she couldn't breathe? That her hands got clammy and her vision went fuzzy? It sounded ridiculous. Mia stood up from the bench and walked to her window. Outside, kids were playing basketball in a neighbor's driveway, their laughter drifting through the cold November air. They looked so carefree. She couldn't remember the last time she'd felt that light. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mom. "How's practice going, sweetie?" "Grandma's so excited about the competition. She's planning to drive up from Florida to watch." Mia stared at the message. Grandma was driving 12 hours to watch her play. Great. No pressure there. She typed back a simple "good" with a smiley face, then immediately felt guilty for lying. But what else could she say? That she was terrified? That every time she thought about performing in front of judges and an audience, she wanted to throw up? The thing was, Mia had performed before. She'd done recitals every year since she was 7. But those were different. Those were in Mrs. Chen's cozy studio with folding chairs and parents holding phones to record. This competition was in a real concert hall, with real judges who'd been professional musicians, with other performers who'd probably been training for this their whole lives. She'd looked up videos of past competitions online. Big mistake. The pianists were incredible. Their fingers flew across the keys like they'd been programmed by computers. They looked confident, focused, perfect. How was she supposed to compete with that? Mia returned to the piano and opened her practice journal. Mrs. Chen made her keep track of what she worked on each day. The pages were supposed to show progress, but lately they just showed frustration. Measures 34 to 50, still struggling with timing. Hands not coordinating in the fast section. Had to stop. Couldn't focus. She picked up her pencil to make today's entry, but didn't know what to write. How do you document that you're falling apart? The sound of the front door opening echoed from downstairs. Her dad was home from work. "Mia," he called up. "I told everyone at the office about your competition. Jenkins wants to come watch. He loves classical music." Her stomach dropped. Mr. Jenkins was her dad's boss. Now her dad's boss was coming to watch her perform. "That's great, Dad," she called back, her voice cracking slightly. She heard his footsteps on the stairs, and then he appeared in her doorway, still wearing his work shirt and tie. "How's the practicing coming along?" he asked, genuinely interested. Her dad had always supported her music. He'd driven her to lessons for years, paid for everything, sat through countless recitals. She knew he was proud of her. "It's coming," she said, managing a small smile. "Can I hear a bit?" Every part of her wanted to say no, but she couldn't disappoint him. She turned back to the piano and started playing. Her fingers trembled on the keys, but she pushed through the first page. When she made a mistake in the second phrase, she felt heat rush to her face. "That's beautiful, honey," her dad said when she finished. "You're going to blow everyone away." Mia nodded, not trusting herself to speak. After he left, she sat alone in the growing darkness of her room. She didn't turn on the light. The piano keys glowed white in the shadows, and she stared at them like they were teeth in a giant mouth ready to swallow her whole. This was supposed to be fun. Music was supposed to be the thing she loved. So why did it feel like a stone sitting on her chest, getting heavier every single day? She thought about all the people who would be watching. Her family, her teacher, the judges, Mr. Jenkins, people from school who'd heard about it. What if she froze? What if she forgot the notes? What if her hands started shaking so badly she couldn't play at all? The what-ifs multiplied in her mind like rabbits, each one more terrifying than the last. Mia pulled her knees up to her chest on the piano bench and wrapped her arms around them. 3 months ago, this competition had seemed like an opportunity, a chance to challenge herself, to see what she was capable of. Now it felt like a countdown to disaster, and she had no idea how to stop the clock. The Tuesday afternoon lesson started like all the others. Mia walked into Mrs. Chen's studio with her sheet music tucked under her arm, said hello, and sat down at the grand piano in the center of the room. But something felt different today. Wrong somehow. Mrs. Chen settled into her usual chair beside the piano, pen ready to make notes. She was a small woman in her 60s with kind eyes and gray hair always pulled back in a neat bun. She'd been Mia's teacher for 8 years, and in all that time, Mia had never let her down. "Let's start from the beginning," Mrs. Chen said with an encouraging smile. "I want to hear how you've progressed this week." Mia positioned her hands over the keys. She took a breath. Then another one. Her fingers hovered there, frozen. "Whenever you're ready," Mrs. Chen said gently. But Mia wasn't ready. Her mind had gone completely blank. She stared at the keys like she'd never seen a piano before in her life. The black and white pattern seemed to swim in front of her eyes. She tried to remember the first note. Just the first note. That's all she needed to start. But it was like trying to grab smoke. Every time she reached for the memory, it slipped away. "Mia?" Mrs. Chen's voice held a note of concern now. "I can't," Mia whispered. Her throat felt tight. "Can't what, dear?" "I can't remember it." "I can't remember how it starts," her voice cracked on the last word. "That's all right. Look at your music. Take your time." Mia's eyes dropped to the sheet music on the stand in front of her. The notes were right there. She could see them. But the connection between what her eyes saw and what her hands should do had completely severed. Her heart started hammering in her chest. That feeling was back, the one that had been ambushing her during practice. Her palms went slick with sweat. The room felt too hot, too small. She couldn't get enough air. "I can't do this," she said, louder now. Her hands dropped from the keys into her lap. "I can't do it. Mia, it's okay. Let's just take a moment," but it wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. The competition was 3 weeks away, and she couldn't even remember how her piece started. All those people expecting her to perform. All that pressure. All that time wasted practicing. For what? To freeze like an idiot in front of everyone? Tears started streaming down her face before she could stop them. Then she was crying for real, her shoulders shaking, gasping for breath between sobs. It all came pouring out. Everything she'd been holding in for weeks. Mrs. Chen didn't say anything at first. She just let Mia cry. After a minute, she moved closer and put a gentle hand on Mia's shoulder. The piano bench was big enough for 2, and Mrs. Chen sat down beside her student, not crowding her, just being present. They sat there in silence for several minutes while Mia tried to pull herself together. The studio clock ticked on the wall. Outside, a car drove past, normal life continuing while Mia's world felt like it was crumbling. "I'm sorry," Mia finally managed to say, wiping her face with her sleeves. "I'm so sorry. I've been practicing, I swear I have, but everything just feels wrong and I don't know what's happening to me." "How long have you been feeling this way?" Mrs. Chen asked quietly. "I don't know. A few weeks? Maybe longer. It keeps getting worse." The words tumbled out faster now. "I get these panic attacks when I'm practicing. My heart races and I can't breathe right and I feel dizzy. And everyone's so excited about the competition and I don't want to let anyone down, but I'm so scared I'm going to mess up and disappoint everybody." Mrs. Chen nodded slowly, taking it all in. "Do your parents know you've been feeling like this?" Mia shook her head. "I didn't want to worry them. They're so proud. Dad's been telling everyone. Mom's planning this whole thing with my grandma coming. I can't back out now. Mia, look at me." Mrs. Chen's voice was firm but kind. Mia turned to face her teacher. "What you're experiencing, what you're feeling, it has a name. It's called performance anxiety, and I need you to know something important. You're not weak for feeling this way. You're not failing. This happens to musicians all the time." "Really?" Mia's voice was small. "Really? In fact, it happened to me." Mia blinked in surprise. Mrs. Chen had been a concert pianist before she became a teacher. She'd performed all over the world. The idea that she'd ever been scared seemed impossible. Mrs. Chen stood up and walked to a shelf lined with photos and awards. She picked up one frame and brought it back to show Mia. It was a concert program from years ago, the paper yellowed with age. "This was supposed to be my debut at Carnegie Hall. I was 24 years old. It was the opportunity of a lifetime." She paused, running her finger over the program. "I made it through exactly half of my first piece before I froze. Completely froze, just like you did today. I stood up, apologized to the audience, and walked off stage." "You didn't finish?" Mia couldn't believe what she was hearing. "I didn't finish. I was so ashamed I wanted to quit music entirely. I thought I'd ruined my career before it even started. But my teacher at the time, she helped me understand something crucial. The anxiety wasn't my enemy. It was my body's way of telling me that I cared too much about being perfect and not enough about the music itself." Mia absorbed these words, trying to make sense of them. "The competition," Mrs. Chen continued, sitting back down beside her, "it's become bigger than the music, hasn't it? It's become about not disappointing people, about proving yourself, about being good enough." Mia nodded. "That was exactly it. But here's what I want you to understand. Music isn't about any of those things. Music is about expression, about joy, about connecting with something beautiful. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. I lost that for you, and I'm sorry." "It's not your fault," Mia said quickly. "Maybe not entirely, but I pushed you into the advanced category because I saw your talent. I didn't stop to ask if you were ready emotionally. If you even wanted this." Mrs. Chen set the old program aside. "So I'm going to ask you now, forgetting about everyone else, forgetting about expectations and disappointment, do you want to compete in this competition?" Mia opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. Did she want to? A month ago, she would have said yes without hesitation. But now? I don't know, she admitted. I used to love playing piano. Now I'm scared of it. Then we need to fix that, because piano should never be something you're scared of. Mrs. Chen stood and walked to her desk, pulling out her phone. I'm going to do something I should have done weeks ago. I'm going to call your parents and ask them to come in. We all need to have a conversation about what's best for you, not what looks good or makes people proud. Panic flared in Mia's chest again, but they'll be so disappointed. They'll be concerned about you. There's a difference. Mrs. Chen's expression was gentle but determined. Your well-being matters more than any competition, more than any performance. If your parents don't understand that, then they need to hear it from me. That evening, Mia sat in the same studio with her parents. Mrs. Chen had explained everything, including her own history with performance anxiety. Mia watched her mother's face shift from confusion to concern to understanding. Honey, why didn't you tell us? Her mom asked, reaching for Mia's hand. I didn't want to let you down. You've both been so excited. Her dad shook his head. Mia, you could never let us down by being honest about how you're feeling. Never. We thought you were excited too, her mom added. We didn't realize we were adding pressure. We just wanted to support you. The four of them talked for over an hour. They talked about pressure and expectations, and how those things had slowly poisoned something Mia used to love. Mrs. Chen suggested a new approach. Taking a complete break from the competition, peace and rebuilding Mia's relationship with music from the ground up. What about the competition? Mia asked. We'll decide that later, Mrs. Chen said. Right now we focus on making piano fun again. If the competition happens, wonderful. If it doesn't, that's okay too. You are not defined by a single performance. Mia's parents agreed immediately. The relief Mia felt was overwhelming. It was like someone had lifted that heavy stone off her chest and she could finally breathe again. As they left the studio that night, Mia felt different, lighter. The competition was still circled on her calendar at home, but it didn't seem quite so terrifying anymore. For the first time in weeks, she thought she might actually be able to face it. Maybe. The next lesson felt strange. From the moment Mia walked into the studio, Mrs. Chen had moved the usual chair away from the piano and set up 2 chairs facing each other near the window instead. No piano today? Mia asked, confused. Not the way you're thinking, Mrs. Chen said with a mysterious smile. Today we're going to do something different. Come sit. Mia settled into one of the chairs, her backpack still on her shoulder. She felt oddly nervous without the structure of a normal lesson. I want you to tell me about the first time you played piano, Mrs. Chen said. What do you remember about it? Mia thought back, digging through old memories. I was 5. My aunt had this old keyboard at her house. I kept pressing the keys because I liked the sounds. She showed me how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with one finger. And how did that feel? Fun, like magic, kind of. I couldn't believe I was making music. A small smile crossed Mia's face at the memory. That's what we're going to get back to, that feeling. Mrs. Chen leaned forward. For the next 2 weeks, I don't want you to practice your competition piece at all. Not even once. But the competition is still 3 weeks away. We have time. Right now, I want you to remember why you fell in love with piano in the first place. Mrs. Chen pulled out a notebook and wrote something down, then tore out the page and handed it to Mia. This is your assignment. 5 minutes every day. Just 5 minutes. You sit at the piano and you play whatever you want. Songs you like, songs you remember, make up melodies. It doesn't matter. But there's one rule, no judging yourself. If you make a mistake, you keep going. If something sounds bad, you laugh about it and try something else. Mia looked at the paper. It seemed too simple. That's it? That's it. 5 minutes of playing for pure joy. Nothing else. That evening, Mia sat at her bedroom piano with Mrs. Chen's assignment in mind. 5 minutes. She could do 5 minutes. She set a timer on her phone and just started playing whatever came to mind. Her fingers found the melody to a pop song she'd heard on the radio. She didn't know all the notes, so she made them up. Some of it sounded terrible, but she kept going like Mrs. Chen said. Then she switched to an old Disney song from a movie she'd loved as a kid. Her hands remembered it better than she expected. When the timer went off, she was surprised. It hadn't felt like 5 minutes at all. The next lesson brought another surprise. Mrs. Chen had brought in another piano student, a college girl named Riley who'd studied with her for years. Riley's going to play something for you, Mrs. Chen explained. I asked her to come in because I think you need to hear this. Riley sat at the piano and played a beautiful jazz piece. Her hands moved confidently across the keys and the music filled the room with energy. When she finished, Mia clapped, impressed. That was amazing, Mia said. Riley laughed. Thanks, but that's not why I'm here. She turned on the piano bench to face Mia. Mrs. Chen told me you've been dealing with performance anxiety. I wanted to tell you that I get it. I still get it, actually. You do? Every single time I perform. Last month I played at a jazz club downtown, and I thought I was going to throw up before going on stage. My hands were shaking so bad I had to sit on them. But you played so well just now. Because there's no audience here. No pressure. It's just us. Riley smiled. The thing is, the anxiety doesn't really go away. You just learn to work with it instead of against it. Mrs. Chen taught me that. Over the next week, Mrs. Chen introduced Mia to several of her former students, each one sharing their own stories. A high school senior who'd bombed his first competition but went on to win others. A middle-aged woman who'd quit piano for 10 years because of pressure from her parents, then came back to it on her own terms. A professional musician who still got nervous before every concert. Hearing their stories made Mia feel less alone. She wasn't broken. She wasn't the only one who'd ever felt this way. Mrs. Chen also taught her practical things, breathing exercises to do when panic started creeping in, a technique where Mia would tense every muscle in her body for 5 seconds, then release, helping her recognize and release physical tension, ways to redirect her thoughts when they spiraled into worst-case scenarios. Your brain is trying to protect you, Mrs. Chen explained during one lesson. It thinks the piano is dangerous because of all the stress you've attached to it. We need to show your brain that piano is safe, that it's fun. The 5-minute daily assignment continued, and Mia found herself looking forward to it. Sometimes she played for longer than 5 minutes without even realizing it. She started exploring different styles of music, trying out jazz chords Riley had shown her, attempting movie soundtracks, even making up her own simple melodies. Her mom noticed the change. "You're smiling when you play again," she said one evening, poking her head into Mia's room. "I haven't seen that in a while." Mia realized her mom was right. Playing piano didn't feel like a chore anymore. 2 weeks after the breakdown in Mrs. Chen's studio, her teacher finally brought out the competition piece again. "I think you're ready to look at this again," Mrs. Chen said, placing the familiar sheet music on the stand. "But we're going to approach it differently. Instead of playing it start to finish, they broke it into tiny sections. Just 4 measures at a time." Mrs. Chen had Mia play each section 3 times, once slowly, once at tempo, and once while humming the melody instead of focusing on her fingers. "The goal isn't perfection," Mrs. Chen reminded her. "The goal is to tell a story with the music." "What story do you think this piece is telling?" Mia had never thought about it that way before. She'd been so focused on hitting the right notes at the right time that she'd never considered what the music meant. They spent the rest of the lesson just talking about the piece, what feelings it evoked, what images it brought to mind, what the composer might have been thinking when they wrote it. "Now play those first 4 measures again," Mrs. Chen said. "But this time, play them like you're telling me that story." Mia did, and something clicked. The notes didn't feel like separate technical challenges anymore. They felt connected, purposeful. "Better?" Mrs. Chen asked with a knowing smile. "Better," Mia agreed. That night, Mia found herself on YouTube watching videos of professional pianists. But this time, she wasn't looking at their technical perfection. She was looking for interviews, behind-the-scenes content, anything where they talked about their process. She found a video of a famous concert pianist discussing her struggles with anxiety. The woman talked openly about therapy, about medications she'd tried, about the years it took to develop coping strategies. She talked about performances where she'd made mistakes and how she'd learned to recover gracefully instead of falling apart. "The audience isn't your enemy," the pianist said in the video. "They want you to succeed. They're on your side." Once I understood that, everything changed. Mia saved the video to watch again later. At her next lesson, Mrs. Chen asked the question Mia had been avoiding. "The competition is in 1 week. Do you want to do it?" Mia took a deep breath. A month ago, the answer would have been a terrified no. But now, after everything she'd learned, after rediscovering her love for music, after understanding that one performance didn't define her worth as a pianist or as a person, something had shifted. "I think I do," Mia said slowly. "But I want to do it for the right reasons. Not to make everyone proud or to prove anything. I want to do it because I worked hard on this piece and I want to share it, even if I'm scared. Maybe especially because I'm scared." Mrs. Chen's eyes got a little misty. "That's exactly the right reason. I might mess up," Mia added quickly. "I might forget parts, or my hands might shake, or I might not play it perfectly." "Probably," Mrs. Chen agreed with a gentle laugh. "But you know what? That's okay. That's human. That's real. Perfect performances are boring anyway. The beauty is in the imperfection, in the courage it takes to share something vulnerable with others." Mia felt butterflies in her stomach, but they were different now, less like panic and more like anticipation. She was still nervous about the competition. She'd probably be nervous right up until she walked on stage. But she wasn't drowning in fear anymore. She'd learned to swim instead. The competition was 6 days away, and for the first time since this whole journey began, Mia actually believed she could do it. Mia woke up on competition morning to sunlight streaming through her window and the smell of pancakes drifting up from the kitchen. Her stomach immediately tightened into a knot, but it wasn't the same paralyzing fear she'd felt weeks ago. This was different. This was normal nervousness, the kind that meant she cared. She lay in bed for a moment, doing the breathing exercise Mrs. Chen had taught her. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out. Her heart was racing, but she could handle it. "You've got this," she whispered to herself. Downstairs, her whole family was already awake. Her mom was making breakfast. Her dad was reading something on his phone, and her brother was actually out of bed before noon on a Saturday, which was practically a miracle. "There she is," her dad said, looking up with a smile. "How are you feeling, kiddo?" "Nervous," Mia admitted, sliding into her chair. "But okay nervous, I think." Her mom set a plate of pancakes in front of her. "You don't have to eat much if your stomach's upset. Just try to have something." Mia managed half a pancake and some orange juice. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted her glass, but she noticed it without panicking. Shaky hands were just a thing that happened when you were nervous. They didn't mean she was going to fail. The drive to the concert hall took 40 minutes. Mia sat in the back seat with her headphones in, listening to a playlist she'd made. Not classical music, just songs that made her feel calm. Her mom had suggested bringing the sheet music to practice in the car, but Mrs. Chen had vetoed that idea. "Today is about trusting yourself," her teacher had said. "You know the piece. More practice won't help now. Just breathe and trust." When they pulled into the parking lot, Mia saw other families unloading from their cars. Teenagers carrying instrument cases, parents with cameras, younger siblings looking bored. All these people going through the same experience. Inside the concert hall, the lobby buzzed with activity. A registration table stood near the entrance and performance schedules were posted on the walls. Mia checked in and got her number. She'd be performing 5th in the advanced category. Middle of the pack. Not too early, not too late. Her family found seats in the audience section while Mia headed backstage to the performers' waiting area. The space was crowded with kids of all ages, some warming up on practice keyboards set up in the corners, others sitting quietly with their eyes closed. The energy was intense. Mia found an empty chair and sat down, setting her bag beside her. She pulled out a water bottle and took a sip, then started her breathing exercises again. Around her, she could hear snippets of conversation. "I've been preparing for 6 months," one girl was saying to her friend. "My teacher says this is the most competitive year yet," a boy muttered. Nervously, Mia tried to tune it out. Their preparation didn't affect hers. Their anxiety didn't have to become hers. She watched the other performers for a while. There was a boy about her age practicing fingering patterns in the air, his hands moving rapidly. A younger girl sat with her mom, going over what looked like last-minute notes. An older teenager sat completely still, headphones on, lost in her own world. Then Mia noticed another girl, maybe 13 or 14, sitting alone in the corner. She was breathing fast, too fast, and her face had gone pale. Mia recognized the signs immediately. Panic attack. Without thinking, Mia got up and walked over. "Hey," she said softly, sitting down in the empty chair next to the girl. "You okay?" The girl shook her head, unable to speak. "It's okay. I get them too." Mia kept her voice low and calm. "Can you try to breathe with me? In through your nose for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The girl tried to follow along. Her breathing was ragged at first, but after a few rounds it started to even out. "Good," Mia encouraged. "You're doing great. Keep going." They sat there together for several minutes, just breathing. Slowly, the color returned to the girl's face. Her hands stopped shaking quite so badly. "Thank you," the girl finally whispered. "I don't know what happened. I was fine and then suddenly I couldn't breathe." "It happens to a lot of us," Mia said. "The pressure gets to be too much and your body just reacts. But you're okay. You're safe. This is just a piano competition. No matter what happens out there, you're going to be fine." The girl nodded, looking more stable now. "I'm supposed to go on in 10 minutes and I don't know if I can do it." "Do you want to do it?" "I think so. I worked really hard on my piece. Then you can do it. And if you mess up, so what? Every single person in this room is going to mess up something today. That's what makes us human." Mia found herself repeating things Mrs. Chen had told her, and they felt true in a way they hadn't before. The girl managed a small smile. "I'm Kara, by the way." "Mia. Good luck out there." "You too." When Kara's name was called, she stood up with more confidence than she'd had 10 minutes earlier. She turned back to give Mia a thumbs up before heading to the stage entrance. Mia returned to her own chair and something had shifted inside her. Helping Kara had somehow helped herself. It reminded her that everyone here was just a person, dealing with their own fears and hopes and nerves. They weren't competitors so much as fellow travelers on the same scary journey. The announcement system crackled to life. Performer number 5, Mia Rodriguez, please prepare to go on stage. This was it. Her heart kicked up again, hammering against her ribs. She stood up, legs feeling slightly unsteady, and walked toward the stage entrance. A volunteer wearing a staff badge smiled at her. Good luck, the woman said kindly. Mia nodded, not trusting her voice to work properly. She could hear applause from the main hall as the previous performer finished. Then footsteps as that person exited through another door. The volunteer gestured toward the stage. You're up. Mia stepped through the doorway and suddenly she was in the wings of the stage. She could see the grand piano in the spotlight, the audience beyond it sitting in darkness. Rows and rows of people. Her family was out there somewhere, Mrs. Chen too, all watching, waiting. The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. Our next performer is Mia Rodriguez, age 16, performing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, Opus 9, number 2. That was her cue. She had to walk out there now. Had to cross that stage, sit at that piano, and play in front of all these people. Her feet felt frozen to the floor. This was the moment she'd been dreading for months. The moment where everything could go wrong, but it was also the moment she'd been working toward. The moment where she got to share something beautiful that she'd worked hard on. Mia thought about Kara, about Riley, about all the other musicians who'd shared their stories with her. She thought about Mrs. Chen walking off stage at Carnegie Hall and somehow surviving it, going on to have a whole career teaching and making music. She thought about that 5-year-old version of herself, pressing keys on her aunt's keyboard and feeling like she was making magic. The music wasn't her enemy. The piano wasn't a test she could fail. It was just an instrument waiting for her to tell a story. Mia took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and walked onto the stage. The applause was immediate, polite, and encouraging. The spotlight was bright, making it hard to see the audience clearly, which somehow helped. She walked to the piano bench, adjusted it to the right height, and sat down. Her hands were shaking. She could see them trembling as she placed them on her lap for a moment. That was okay. She acknowledged the fear, said hello to it silently, and then put her hands on the keys. The piano felt cool and familiar under her fingers. She'd touched these exact keys in her bedroom thousands of times. This was no different. Just her and the piano and the music. She closed her eyes for just a second, finding that quiet place inside herself where the music lived. Then she began to play. The first notes weren't perfect. Her right hand came in a fraction of a second late and she could hear it. But instead of spiraling into panic, instead of letting that mistake derail everything, she remembered what Mrs. Chen had said. The beauty is in the imperfection. She kept going, letting the music flow through her, and somewhere around the third measure, something magical happened. She stopped thinking about the audience, stopped worrying about mistakes, stopped being afraid. She was just playing. Just making music. Just telling a story with her fingers and her heart. The piece unfolded beneath her hands and Mia let herself feel it. The gentle, flowing melody, the emotional swells, the quiet, tender moments. She swayed slightly with the music, her face reflecting what she heard and felt. There was another small mistake in the middle section, a note that came out softer than intended. She heard it but didn't let it pull her out of the moment. She stayed with the music, stayed present, stayed connected, and then before she quite realized it, she was playing the final measures. The piece wound down to its gentle conclusion, the last notes hanging in the air like a question. Mia lifted her hands from the keys and opened her eyes. For a moment, there was silence. Then the applause began. The applause washed over Mia like a wave, warm and real. She stood up from the piano bench, her legs shaky but holding, and took a bow the way Mrs. Chen had taught her. Not too quick, not too long. Just a moment to acknowledge the audience and their appreciation. As she walked off stage, the sound of clapping still filling her ears, something unexpected happened. Tears started streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness or fear, but something else entirely. Relief maybe, or joy. Or just the release of months of pent-up emotion finally finding its way out. A stage assistant handed her a tissue backstage, smiling sympathetically. Happens to a lot of performers, the woman said kindly. You did beautifully. Mia wiped her eyes and laughed, a sound that came out half sob, half giggle. Thank you. She made her way back to the waiting area on unsteady legs, and there was Kara, the girl she'd helped earlier. Kara jumped up and gave her a quick hug. "That was amazing," Kara said. "You look so peaceful up there." "I made mistakes," Mia said automatically, then caught herself. "But I kept going. That's what matters," Kara agreed. "I messed up a whole section of mine, but I finished." We both finished. They sat together watching other performers on the monitor screen set up in the waiting area. Some played flawlessly, their fingers dancing across the keys with machine-like precision. Others stumbled and recovered. One boy forgot a section entirely and had to stop, apologize to the judges, and start that part over. But he finished too and got applause just like everyone else. After all the advanced category performers had played, there was a long break while the judges deliberated. Mia found her family in the lobby. Her mom hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. "I'm so proud of you," her mom whispered. "I made mistakes, though," Mia said. "I didn't notice any mistakes," her dad said firmly. "I just saw my daughter up there making beautiful music. That's all I saw." Her brother, who usually couldn't be bothered to comment on anything, actually put his phone down. "That was pretty cool, sis. You looked like a real performer up there." Mrs. Chen appeared through the crowd, her eyes bright with emotion. She didn't say anything at first, just pulled Mia into a hug. "You found it," Mrs. Chen said finally. "The music. The real music, not the perfect notes, but the feeling behind them. That's what matters." "I was so scared," Mia admitted, "right up until I started playing. And then I just let go. I stopped trying to control everything and just played." Mrs. Chen smiled. "That's the secret that takes some people a lifetime to learn. You learned it at 16. Grandma found them next, having driven all the way from Florida like she'd promised. She looked tired from the long trip, but her face glowed with happiness. "I wouldn't have missed this for anything," she said, kissing Mia's forehead. "You were wonderful." Even Mr. Jenkins, her dad's boss, showed up and shook Mia's hand formally. "Impressive performance, young lady. Very moving." The attention was overwhelming, but different than Mia had imagined. She'd spent so long worried about disappointing people that she'd forgotten that these people actually cared about her. Not just her performance. They would have loved her whether she'd placed first or last or somewhere in between. When they announced the results an hour later, everyone crowded into the main hall. The judges called winners in reverse order, starting with honorable mentions, then 5th place, 4th place. 3rd place in the advanced category, the head judge announced, goes to Mia Rodriguez, 3rd place. Not first, not even second, third, and you know what? Mia was okay with that. More than okay. She walked up to accept her bronze medal and certificate with her head held high. She'd done what she came to do. She'd faced her fear, she'd shared her music, and she'd survived. That was its own kind of victory. The girl who won 1st place was a senior named Diana who'd played a technically challenging piece almost perfectly. She deserved it. 2nd place went to a quiet boy who'd performed something beautiful and complex. He deserved it too. Backstage afterward, Diana approached Mia while they were both putting away their awards. "Your performance was really beautiful," Diana said. "I got so emotional during it." "Really?" Mia was surprised. Diana had seemed so confident, so untouchable up on stage. "Really? You can tell when someone is really feeling the music versus just playing the notes correctly. You were feeling it." Diana lowered her voice. "Between you and me, I was terrified up there. I always am. But I've learned to hide it better." They talked for a few more minutes, and Mia realized that even the 1st place winner dealt with nerves and doubt. Everyone did. It was just part of being human, part of putting yourself out there. Kara found them before leaving and gave Mia her phone number. "Maybe we can keep in touch?" she asked hopefully. "It helps knowing someone else who gets it." "Definitely," Mia agreed. The ride home was cheerful and relaxed. Her family stopped for celebratory ice cream even though it was December and freezing outside. They laughed and talked about everything except the competition for a while, which felt nice. Normal. That night, lying in bed with her bronze medal on her nightstand, Mia thought about the whole journey. From the first moment she'd felt that crushing anxiety, through the breakdown in Mrs. Chen's studio, to rediscovering why she loved music, to finally standing on that stage and playing her heart out, she'd thought the competition would define her somehow. That winning would prove she was good enough and losing would prove she wasn't. But the truth was so much simpler than that. The performance wasn't the ending of a story. It was just one moment in a much bigger journey. A few weeks later, Mrs. Chen asked Mia if she'd be willing to talk to some of her younger students who were struggling with anxiety. Mia agreed and found herself in the familiar studio with two kids, both around 13, who looked at her with nervous hope in their eyes. "Does it ever get easier?" one of them asked. Mia thought about how to answer honestly. "The fear doesn't really go away," she said, "but you get better at dancing with it. You learn that you can do hard things even when you're scared. And that's actually more valuable than never being scared in the first place." She shared her story with them, not leaving out the hard parts, the panic attacks, the tears, the moment she froze, but also the recovery, the support, the tools she'd learned, the realization that she was stronger than she thought. Over the next few months, Mia continued competing in piano competitions. She won some, lost others, but none of them felt as monumental as that first one, because she understood now that her worth wasn't tied to the outcome. She also started teaching piano to a few younger students, one afternoon a week. She loved seeing the joy in their faces when they learned a new song, loved being the kind of teacher who made music fun instead of stressful. One of her students was an 8-year-old boy who reminded her of herself at that age, full of enthusiasm and wonder, playing for the pure joy of it. Mrs. Chen noticed the change in how Mia taught. "You're a natural," she told her one day. "You have the gift of meeting students where they are." "I just remember what it felt like," Mia said. "To love something and then start being afraid of it. I don't want that to happen to them." Senior year brought college applications and several schools had strong music programs. Mia applied to some of them, but she also applied to schools with good education programs. Maybe she wanted to teach music. Maybe she wanted to perform. Maybe she'd do both. She didn't have to decide everything right now. What she did know was that music would always be part of her life. Not because she had to prove anything to anyone, but because it brought her joy, because it let her express things words couldn't capture, because it connected her to something bigger than herself. Sometimes late at night she'd sit at her bedroom piano and just play. No audience, no judges, no pressure, just her and the music and the quiet house around her. She'd play the competition piece sometimes, the one that had caused her so much stress, but now it felt different, like an old friend she'd fought with and then made up with. Other times she'd play whatever came to mind, letting her fingers wander across the keys, making up melodies, experimenting with harmonies. Those were her favorite moments. When music felt like play again, like magic, like that 5-year-old at her aunt's keyboard discovering sound for the first time. One evening, her mom came and sat on Mia's bed while she played, just listening. When Mia finished, her mom had tears in her eyes. "What?" Mia asked, concerned. "You're happy again," her mom said simply. "When you play now, you look happy. For a while there, I was worried we'd lost that, but we didn't. You found your way back," Mia smiled. Her mom was right. She had found her way back. Not to where she'd been before, she couldn't go backward, but to something new and better. A place where she could acknowledge her fear without letting it control her. Where she could pursue excellence without demanding perfection. Where she could share her music without attaching her entire self-worth to how people received it. The bronze medal stayed on her shelf, but it wasn't the most important thing she'd brought home from that competition. What she'd gained was so much more valuable than any award. She'd learned that she was brave, that she could face the things that scared her, that asking for help wasn't weakness but wisdom, that mistakes didn't mean failure, that the journey mattered more than the destination. And most importantly, she'd learned that the applause that mattered most wasn't from an audience or judges or even from the people who loved her. It was the quiet satisfaction that came from doing something difficult, from showing up for yourself, from choosing courage over comfort. That was the real performance. That was the real victory. And that was something no judge could ever score.